Well, here it is, the top of the hour, and I want to welcome you all to the Pit Stop, your fortnightly midweek rest area to refuel your drive. I'm Karen Commins. I'm an audiobook narrator and chief cartographer for narratorsroadmap.com and your host for Pit Stop. And with me in the co-pilot seat is my good friend and award-winning audiobook narrator, Anne Flosnik, who hosts the Narrator Uplift show on Clubhouse. So how are you today, Anne?
Wonderful, thank you, Karen. Very excited to be here with you and Melissa.
Yes, and every other Wednesday we'll be getting together to talk with audiobook narrators who do more than narrate, and they'll pull into the Pit Stop, and they are sure to inspire you to follow your interests and use all of your talents and gifts. And I want to let everybody know this conversation is being recorded, so you'll be able to re-listen or catch parts you missed. And I'm just so excited to be here, and I appreciate you all joining us. Today, I'm thrilled we're going to be talking with audiobook narrator and certified life coach Melissa Moran. Melissa is an accomplished audiobook narrator with over 300 titles, and she's been an Audie and Voice Arts Award finalist and a winner of an Audiofile Magazine Earphones Award. Before her narration career, Melissa enjoyed 20 years in the radio industry and has won a Country Music Award and Academy of Country Music Award for Best On-Air Personality in a Medium Market. When she's not behind the mic, you can find her on stage, in front of a camera, creating art, or on a Zoom call with a life coaching client. Yep, she is a certified life coach, and that's a big reason I wanted to talk with her. And if you're going to APAC in March in New York City, look for Melissa as a panelist in the session called Read Our Reviews, Maintaining Your Mental Health in an Isolating Career. She and the other speakers will provide tips and tricks to avoid negative thought spirals, as well as a perspective for those struggling to break into steady work. That sounds like a great panel right there. Melissa lives in Central Florida with her husband, her 10-year-old son, and a dog and a cat. So welcome, Melissa. I'm so thrilled you're here, so excited we finally get to talk. So you were in radio before you were an audiobook narrator. How did that happen? How did you, or did you just go from radio to narration? Tell us what you were doing before you were a narrator.
Yeah, okay. So I originally went to college, for film and animation, straight out of high school because I thought that's what I wanted to do. Like, on paper, I really enjoyed drawing and I loved watching movies, and I was like, put the two together, what do you got? Animation. So I went to school for that, and I didn't realize how tedious it was and how much I didn't want to do that as a career. So, whoops. So I left after a year, and I noticed that while I was working or not working on projects, I was procrastinating usually, I would always have this great Philadelphia radio on. And it just dawned on me one day that I could do that. Why not? And when I went back home after my failed year of art school, I got an internship at a radio station, and I just kind of went from there, and I kept getting jobs and jobs and jobs, moving around, living a sort of, gypsy life up and down the East Coast. And eventually, one of my colleagues in my now final job as an on-air personality, one day he mentioned to me, have you ever thought about audiobooks and being a narrator? Because he knew that I really enjoyed theater and I knew how to work the equipment. I knew how to edit and work the mic. So he said, what about that? And I have to say, I had never listened to an audiobook before. And I thought, okay, well, let me listen to one and see what it's all about. And my first listen was the beautiful and lovely and talented Tanya Eby. And I always remind her of that. And I thought, wow, people do this? This is awesome. And I started narrating, and it was so funny because I started in my production room of the radio station because there was a mic and there was a computer. It was all right there to me at the time. So that was my unfair advantage, if you will, getting into the industry. And I started off with a children's book, and then I moved on to romance and spicy romance. And it got to the point where I was really uncomfortable doing some of the books I was doing in a public space. So then I inevitably got the equipment in my own home, and that's how it all started.
So how long were you doing that concurrently? You were still working at radio, right? And then you were doing audiobooks at the station. How long did that last?
Yeah, my first book was in 2014. And, like I said, I started out in the production room, and it took me probably, I don't know, 4 to 6 months to really say, okay, like this could be something. So then I bought the equipment, set up something small in my bedroom. I mean, it would be embarrassing to show you what I was using back then, but it worked. And I decided in 2017 that I would officially go full time. And what that looked like was, because I enjoyed a 20-year career in radio. So that was my life. And also at the time, I had a 5-year-old. So to go from what some would say, I know radio is not considered a stable job, but I also worked for a family-owned radio station. So it was really a steady job for me. Um, you would basically have to punch the manager in the face to get fired at that place. So I wasn't going anywhere if I didn't want to. So I always told myself if it ever got to the point where I outbooked my radio job, like I literally couldn't do both, um, I would then leave my radio job. And it all came to kind of a crescendo when I went to my first APAC, um, Audio Publishers Association conference in New York City in 2017. And I met publishers and I met people from the community from all over the place. And it, it was like I met my tribe. Like I finally met my people. And it was at that point where I was like, okay, this is it. And making the leap wasn't easy still because I still had to go to my boss and say, hey, I'm leaving you after 10 years at this station.
Well, you
Um,
could have just punched him. I
I
mean,
could
that would have been an easy out.
have. He was a nice guy. Um, but yeah, that was hard. And it was like jumping off a cliff. But here I am, and I have zero regrets.
Well, that's the best part. And the thing is now you are doing life coaching too. And so you were narrating, and then when did you get the bug about life coaching, and how did that come about?
Mm, that was I would say it started in the spring of 2020. So we all know what happened in 2020. Um, and I think it was a bunch of things that had to happen. Well, first of all, I want to say that I've always loved self-development and motivational speakers, the Tony Robbins, the Mel Robbins, the uh, uh, oh gosh, there are a million I can't think of right now. Marie Forleo. I loved reading the books and watching the YouTubes, and it was always something I had enjoyed. But I think in 2020 it was the lack of the human touch, the communication, the confusion, the people just need to be heard, um, the high stakes emotions and trauma we were all going through at that time that made me realize that connection was the most important thing. And I believe we already do that as narrators. Um, we we are storytellers, which is in my opinion, it's the highest form of art. You can perform. So it made sense to make that switch. And there were other personal things in my life that were going on where I started to really question how I was starting or how I was listening to people. Was I really listening? Was I wrapped up in my own world? And there's nothing wrong with that. We're all wrapped up in our own worlds. But I think there's no greater gift than really listening to someone. And so I kind of put all those things together and I found this thing that people did called life coaching, and it blew my mind. I knew about the motivational speakers, but I didn't know you could do that with it, like on a one-on-one basis. So, yeah, it just kind of broke open this new world that I became obsessed with and eventually became that.
Well, you had some sort of official training and curriculum, and because I know
Hmm.
you said you're a certified life coach, so who does that certification, and what was the training like? And I guess even backing up before that, I mean, I love self-development. I look at these things, and what made you want to develop that interest further into something that is actually now a second career?
Oh, hmm. What was it that made me want to take it on actually as a career? Well, yeah, because I suppose, you know, you could just be a good listener. You know, you you could use what you learn and you could improve your own life. You could become a better wife, a partner, a mother, a family member, a friend, which is great. And I think the reason why I chose to do it as a career was because in addition to all of those things, I saw that a lot of people in my own community, in the narrator community, and voiceover and beyond, um, were were struggling with a lot of things also. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I can help them. So to to turn it into a career, I don't know. I suppose it just kind of made sense to offer it up to other people. And in terms of the training, I went through, it was like an 8-month training, and you learn a lot of the technical things. Because I know a lot of people are concerned about, well, is this therapy? And like, it is not. We learn what is coaching and what is not. We understand what we need to do if those lines are crossed by the client, unawares, um, and we know how to direct that conversation. Um, so there are ethical things you learn. Um, you also do a lot of one-on-one coaching within the group. There are tools and methods you learn. Um, and that being said, I think coaches are also you can be a coach without the training. You could just be a super curious um, listener um, and know what to look for and the right questions to ask to get someone to the point of transformation. I think there's a lot of intuitive work that goes into it as well. So it's really just learning what to do, what not to do, and then it's all hands on after that point. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Is it okay?
Well, you're the guest. We want you to talk a lot.
Like, yeah, 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 okay.
That's why we're asking you the questions, so you will talk a
Okay.
lot.
I'm like, me. Yes.
Well,
Thank you, Karen.
I'm always curious about signposts that people get along the way. Like, how long did it take you to realize this was a thing and you were going to do it? Because I think a lot of times our own inhibitions hold us back, or we think, oh, well, what will they think about us? Or, we allow things to hold us back and maybe miss out on doing something we would really like to do. So did you have those kind of moments? Like, did you have some time between the time the idea came to you and the time you actually took action toward fulfilling it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still having those moments. So, of course. So I think when you're offering something like this, or like whatever you're pursuing that's new to you, there's always this initial excitement that goes into, wow, like think of all the possibilities. I could take this and I could really help people, and maybe this will lead to public speaking, and how can I work this into my career? But how can this thing grow? And so you get so excited. And then you learn the things, and then comes the point where you're like, okay, well, I'm that now. I know the things. So how do I tell people this is what I do? Without sounding like, hi, I'm no longer a narrator. Now I'm doing this. Like that was my fear. Like you can do both, right? Um, then there's the, who does she think she is? Because I think there's a lot of like misinformation, and a lot of bad coaches out there, um, that people don't necessarily take it seriously, or they think it's a scam, or they think it's unnecessary, or they think it's people pretending to be therapists. Y- there's all of this external stuff that you think about, that you think people are thinking about you. But what you want to ask yourself instead is, how can I help the person? Like, how can I talk to the person who really just needs help? Like, they just really want to talk to someone about this, and I can offer that to them. So it becomes less of a, how do I do this? And like, how can I help you? If that makes sense. Um, because when you're not making it about yourself, and you're just offering a empathetic ear, those worries tend to disappear a little bit. So yeah.
And obviously, Anne, jump in here anytime you want. I don't want to monopolize all the questions.
I was just going to say, Melissa, I have listened to, I think, hi there, most of your podcasts, and I got the impression from when you kind of spoke about this issue on those, that really you're listening kind of thing, and then usually the queryant has the answer within themselves. Is that kind of on the right lines often?
Yes, you always have the answer. So I think one of the misconceptions about a life coach is that we're there to dole out advice. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Um, you as the client, or whoever is the client, has everything they need inside themselves.
Yes.
No one knows you better than you. So who am I to say, this is what you need to do? Um, a life coach is a mirror, to put it plainly and simply. Um, and just asking the right questions, like I'll ask you, how many times have you just been in a conversation with someone and something came out of your mouth that you're like, huh, I didn't realize I thought that.
Right.
Is that, huh, so it's like speaking the things out loud carries so much truth. It's like, it's crazy. So yes, people have all of that inside of them, and it's just knowing the right questions to ask.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's so true what you just said. So many times I've been saying something to Drew or Anne or another friend, and then it's like I solved my own problem. Because
Yeah.
as you're saying, just because I was mulling it through out loud to somebody who was interested in what I had to say helped me channel that energy and focus in the right direction and come up with the answer I was looking for. And it's freaky how much that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, it's having that conversation, because generally what we do is we're all living inside our heads, and we have 60,000 million whatever thoughts a day. And so you could have a moment of truth for sure at any given point of the day, but then your thoughts will just absolutely destroy whatever truth you came up with in that moment. Um, so so I think when you're speaking with someone, you're speaking those thoughts in real time, and we're there to challenge you. Like, how true is that? Does that thought serve you? Um, or is that a thought you want to think? You know, are you being kind to yourself? Um, because our brains are liar like McLiar pants, and it's nice to have someone point that out every now and then.
And one thing that I'm really curious about is how you divide your time between being a narrator and being a life coach, because obviously your clients on either side of that fence are not going to coordinate your time for you, and they could both be equally demanding. So how do you make that happen?
Yeah. So I have, a calendar set up, um, where people can choose the times, but based on the availability that I have, because as a narrator, of course, if you have an 8-hour book, it's impossible to do an 8-hour book in 4 hours. So so you want to make sure that you've allotted yourself a, a a good amount of time to do what you need to do during the day. Stick to that plan as much as you can, and anything outside of that, I can make myself available. And I say that with the with knowing that my kid now is 10, so I can schedule hours when he's home. Um, Back in the day, I couldn't do that. So as he gets older, I have a little bit more freedom when I'm not in the booth, which is nice. As long as he's on his computer, he's good to go. But that being said, I do make sure I give my family my as much time as I can. So yeah, when everyone's in school and working, those are my narration hours because it's the absolute quietest time. And then outside of that, I can coach.
What would you say would be, I know it's kind of like how long is a piece of string, but for the average person, both to open up to what their issues may be to themselves and to you, and to get some kind of direction? What would the kind of average be, Melissa?
Hmm, that is a long string.
Always.
Yeah, no, I mean it depends, because listen, I mean, you could come to me and we could have an hour conversation, and you could get transformation in one conversation. You could you could say something that absolutely blows your own mind, that helps that situation in the moment. Um, and then at that point, if it's one issue you came to me with, then it could be as quick as that. However, it's the maintenance of that thought that's important, right? So, as an example, I'm not using names because, privacy. But there was someone that came to me and said, I I really just want to rid the need of external validation.
Yes.
And I remember, like, we all have that problem, I think. Problem
Oh,
in
absolutely.
quotations. Yeah.
We're actors. I mean, that's our baseline problem.
Territory.
Yeah. And I think what the transformation was in that conversation, and it was just one question, was, why is external validation bad?
Hmm.
And I think just because we all have an idea of like what's bad, what's good. I'm wrong for thinking this. I'm shaming myself for this. What if it wasn't bad? I mean, there's nothing wrong with needing or like wanting external validation.
Mhm.
It's the needing, in order to feel good about your work. Um, but it's easy to confuse the two, I think. So sometimes it's just one question. And like I remember seeing this person's face like, huh, uh, it's not bad. And so it's just, it could be as simple as that, that kind of opens up possibilities. And that's that's really the key, is just knowing that you have choices of how to think of something.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I love what you said about the maintenance of the thought, because like when I've had conversations with people, and I'm always talking about thinking better thoughts, and I have to be vigilant about what I'm writing and saying and speaking, because it can be very easy to get into a negative spiral, which is why I think your panel at APAC is going to be a fantastic success and well attended. But it's so hard to maintain that thought. It's hard to maintain that level of where I want to be, and it just requires, like I say, for me, constant vigilance. So I love that you said that it's not just having the thought, it's the maintenance of that thought.
Yeah, it, it is, because, and I think that's why um, I don't necessarily offer like one-off sessions, because you can have that like, oh, okay, I don't have to make myself wrong for that. Okay, done. But then it's, other thoughts come in to replace that. So it is like, it's like a part-time job to manage your mind. But I think to ease up on that a little bit, because it just sounds like so much work. And it doesn't have to be. You just have to be mindful of your thoughts and just not believe them, the ones that don't serve you, You just have to constantly remind yourself like that, nope, that's not true. Nope, that's not true. Um, yeah, so it is like staying on top of it and just knowing to catch yourself if you are spiraling, which again is difficult, because when you're self-employed and you're working from home like we do, you don't always have that person to check in with, like, this is how I'm feeling right now. Um, and sometimes you don't, even though you have people, they're not necessarily the support you need in that moment. Um, so it's knowing how to like be gentle with yourself. That's key.
And I want to ask you also, do you have, because you're talking about help, so that brings to mind, do you have an assistant or some other kind of help, whether, somebody like a virtual assistant or somebody physically? And if you do, how did you decide you needed help, and how did you acquire the right people? Acquire is not the right word, but you know what I mean. Hire the
Yeah.
right people. Acquire is not totally the wrong word, but how did you find the right people to help for the situations you needed?
I no, I actually don't have any kind of assistant. Just because, I mean, I there are ways to like automate some things. I think as far as scheduling goes, I when I first started out, it was very like, oh, you want to schedule a session? And then it would just be a back and forth, like, how's Friday at 2:15? No. So there are apps for that, so I just use Calendly or whatever to schedule, and they send out automated reminders to clients, so I don't necessarily have to stay on top of that. So that does make my life easier. Um, just making use of the technology that's available is helpful, because like there are so many days I, well, and this is getting into a dangerous territory. I don't mean this when I say this, but sometimes you wish you could just clone your voice. So like I don't feel like narrating today. I need to do this. So want to just clone my voice and get that done. That's not possible, at least for now. Um, but yeah, like
Well, it
there
wouldn't
was
make the acting choices you do, so.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, like a lot of what we do and what I do is so like one-on-one and so just like in getting in the dirt. Um, I don't know if I said that right. Just I mean like gardening, planting the seeds. I
Planting
don't mean
seeds.
like I don't mean like going through people's dirt. That's I want to be careful about that. Um, but yeah, it's so one-on-one. It's hard to like get assistance for certain things, but maybe I can um, explore more possibilities with that too. So yeah.
And, and as if you're not already doing enough in your life between being a narrator and being a life coach and a mom, a wife, a friend, and all those other roles, I see now you're in a play. You're actually physically in a play, and then you're also doing photography for your Chamber of Commerce. And I mean, I'm really interested in how what's an average day for you? How do you split that up? I mean, if you're going to clone anything, you might need to clone yourself to be in multiple places at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could ask the same of you. You have this wonderful website and you blog and you narrate. And so, listen, I think the way we are as multi-passionate entrepreneurs, we're we're always seeking out like artistic, fulfilling projects we can do that keep things interesting, that feed our creative side. Like as much as I love narration and I consider that like my number one career, um, it, I don't think I could rely on just that to sort of feed the creative monster. Like you also want to get out and, well, at least for me, um, and do a play. And I think for me, the dangerous part is that if I have no filter. So if I was on Facebook one day and I was scrolling and these auditions come up for this play like a month from now. And I was like, oh, I haven't done a play in like a year. And then my um fantasies start going in my head. I'm like, what if I got a part? That would be fun. I don't know. I could like make some friends and like you think of all the possibilities of this thing and it's basically done. Like I knew as soon as I got excited about it, I was like, I guess I'm doing it. So it's that initial excitement that I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing this now.
Well, I was going to key on that because that excitement pulls you along. I mean, you mentioned me as an example, but see, I have help. Drew helps me with the website and he directs my narration. So he's fully involved in all parts of my business. And plus, I'm sitting in my house. I'm not going out to a theater. I'm not going out to the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not out and about. All of this activity is just taking place in the house. And so that's why I was curious and I really admire what you're doing. But I love what you're saying about that flash of excitement that comes to you. And it kind of pulls you along, and that's how you know it's for you. And I guess it's hard for me to know when is this just an interest, a mild interest that's going to go away, or how do I make something bigger of it, or does it want to be something bigger? And is that something you can speak to?
Sure. And I also want to acknowledge that you totally like dismissed yourself but through that whole thing. Um, so listen,
I'll I appreciate you saying that, but it's not that I'm being dismissive. It's just that it is a totally different situation because you're out and about doing all these things that require you alone to do them. So going back to the question of how do you know it's not just a simple little interest and it's going to work into something more?
yeah. So with the play, I realize it's a commitment and that the initial excitement might wane as we're approaching, tech week or like things get hard. I know, however, I've had experience enough on stage where I realize, okay, but once you do that first show, like it's such a payoff. Like you'll be glad you did this. So I can work that out in my brain. Like when it gets hard, I know there's that satisfying like reward at the end. Um, so when it comes to other interests, like so this photography thing like came out of nowhere. First of all, I do want to mention that I use photography very flippantly. I am a complete amateur. I just got a nice camera and now I'm like, I want to do all the things. I want to take all the pictures. So
I lost you. Are you still there? Or is it me who's lost?
I hear you, Karen.
Oh, thank you, Anne. Well, Melissa, now you're on mute.
Mic's off. Yeah. There we
amateur or semi-pro or pro photographer who's available Saturday. And I didn't even think about it. I was like, and I'm raising my hand because I don't know. I guess I just saw it as a sign. And I'm like, well, maybe this is something to explore. So I guess when you don't have a clear end, like you don't have a clear goal in sight, that's where it gets a little like, where could this go? Where do I want this to go? I don't know. In this case, like of it being just a fun little thing I'm doing, it's okay if it fizzles out. I have no attachment to like one day being the next whatever famous photographer. So I'm just gonna let it ride and see what happens. Um, and if things start moving in the direction of like, well, maybe this is something like this could be another passion, then what I, you know, again, it goes back to being a creative freelancer and having that entrepreneur heart. The challenge comes in of, okay, how many things can you physically do? You don't have to turn everything into a career. Like that could be a hobby, and that's okay. Not everything has to be monetized. Just because you enjoy something doesn't mean you should turn it into a business.
Well, that's a refreshing
These are the things
comment
I have to
right there.
constantly remind myself. Um, and the things that are truly meant for you, you will want, you have a deep desire to continue doing it until you don't. So there's just so much beauty in the world. And why would you uh, keep yourself from doing those things? Now, you also have to, keep your family in mind, your loved ones in mind. You don't, you know, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I personally want to give my time and attention to them first and foremost. So I think anything that satisfies me creatively while also maintaining balance in my home is what I really value in life. So um, it's knowing where to pull back and when to pull back. That's the challenge. Did any of that make sense?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, I feel that way. And has this happened with you where you
Oh, I
just get
can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, well,
Oh, okay, hold on. My volume went down. Okay, I'm
I was
sorry. Could you
wondering,
repeat
Anne,
what you
if this
said?
is I relate very much to what you were saying, and I wondered, Anne, if this has happened with you, where you get this spark of an idea, and then you're like, well, I just have to keep seeing what happens here.
Yes, but not to the same way that Melissa does. I sense it, and I admire you very greatly, Melissa. I sense a fearlessness in you, because I know for me, when I have, an audiobook, there's an awful echo. So I'm distracting myself, hearing myself. But once I have that audiobook, that's my commission. And it's like the portcullis goes down, and that's all I focus on until I get to the end of that. And then I'll look up again, up for air, and see what's going on in the world. But I admire that you have a much broader focus than I have developed.
Well, I can say that I don't know that it's a fearlessness. I think it's just I don't know what word to put on it, but to turn that around, also admire how you can put your focus on one thing and give that your 100,000%. Um, but that's not to say, like, look, when I'm in the booth and I'm narrating something, that has my complete and utter attention. I'm not doing like, I'm not emailing clients on the side or like that is for sure. That's my attention. But to me, like I admire that discipline that it takes. And the balancing act with being like multi-passionate and doing a million things is you're always thinking that you're sacrificing one thing over another. Like, because I'm doing this, is this hurting my chances of potentially um, raising my, I'm losing my words. Karen, I know you know what I'm talking about.
It's an opportunity cost.
Yeah.
That if I'm doing this, then I can't be doing that at the same time. And so you have to weigh your opportunity costs.
Yeah, but do you, I guess is the question that I have to ask myself and put this out to you. I think yes, if you're focused on one thing, you will excel at a much greater pace than I ever would when I'm doing a couple of different things. And that is something that I wish I could do.
Well,
Um,
not necessarily, Melissa, because kind of like my world shuts down, whereas yours is opening up, which kind of has to feed your artistic, all your artistic bits. And no, I honestly, I do admire that openness that you have.
oh, thank you. I love you. we, we all love each other and what
You
we
do.
do. I mean, yeah, but I just feel like, yeah, there is the question of, is this suffering because I'm doing this? And I just think that you can give yourself permission to do whatever you want, and you can put your 100% into what you're doing at that time. Um, and I don't think you should feel bad about it, you know? Um, if you lose, okay, so I think in a case where you actually start losing jobs because you're missing deadlines, and that's where you need to have like a come to Jesus with yourself and ask yourself, is this okay? So what do I really want? What is the end goal here? And if I'm missing out on gigs or missing deadlines, is that because I want, is this not for me? Or do I need to sacrifice this over here so I can really start focusing on what's important? Yeah.
Right, right. And when you have a book, is that you're doing all these other things, but how much time per day would you say you spend on the book and then include the other things as well?
I have quiet time when my kid is in school and my husband is a school teacher. So mostly I'm in the booth from like 9:30 a.m. to about 1 p.m. So listen, in the beginning, I put a lot of pressure on myself because it was always said that a professional narrator can get 2 finished hours per day. And for me, like I'm a slow narrator, just I don't know why. It takes a lot for me to hit 1 hour. Um, like I would need to, for every 1 hour, I'm in there three. Like I was never a 2-to-1, right?
Yep.
So I had to be honest with myself and say, do I want to be a 2-hour narrator, 2 hour a day narrator, which is going to put me in that booth at least 6 hours? Or do I accept my quote unquote limitations? It's not. It's just it's
No.
how I work.
Mm-hmm.
Do I accept that and schedule around that? And so in the end, I was like, you know what? 1 hour a day. That's what I can do.
Right. No, that's excellent, because it's all about to thyself be true, right?
Hmm.
That's how you live your life, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
I,
And
and I
I've
love
never
hearing
shamed
that.
anyone for for being less than that. 3.5 hours to one, 4 hours to one, whatever
Mm,
gets the job done, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love hearing that too. As I could do two, and one day I actually did 2.5, and that was like a banner day. But more typically, it's an hour, and on this last book, some days it was just 30 minutes, and it's not just me because, like I said, Drew's working with me, and so he has some things scheduled, and then our little dog is at a senior citizen now, and he's needing more accommodation, and so that time has been fluctuating downward for me, and I did feel bad about it, like, well, I'm just not getting much done. This book is taking forever, and so it's so refreshing to hear you acknowledge that you do what you can do, and then that's the best you could do, and you can't expect any more of yourself than that. It's to just do your best.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think if you push yourself, you know, things are gonna maybe the work is starting to suffer, your voice is going out or whatever. I mean, you could always work on productivity. What can you do to improve if you want to, like if you want to work up to that 2 hours a day, if you really feel that's important. Because I also want to acknowledge that we all have different financial situations, family situations, where sometimes like we can't just do 1 hour a day. We need to get those hours done so we can get paid, right? So, you know, fortunately, I'm in a position where I can comfortably do 1 hour a day as long as I have like X amount of books a month and so many hours a month. As long as I can get paid on based on that, I'm good. But depending on, where you live, what your situation, you need to do more than that. And, you know, at that point, it's just knowing what you have to do to get there.
And our time together is coming to a close, and I just want to encourage people. I know Anne has been posting in the chat that if you want to talk with Melissa, come on up. You just have to raise your hand in the app. So I did want to put that out there one more time. But in the meantime, I have a couple of questions for you in what I call the pit stop hot seat. And
Okay.
the first one, and this is one of my favorite questions of all time, is what is your most trivial, useless, or flat out counterproductive superpower?
Trivial counterproductive superpower. Give me an example. Like, what would yours be?
Well, mine is that I can hear music playing in a store before Drew even knows, and I can name that tune before Drew even knows there's music playing. I mean,
Okay.
it doesn't help anybody, but it's definitely a thing I do.
Gosh. Um, I can,
Well, maybe I'll give you an easier question.
please.
If you maybe you don't want your superpowers known, but here's one that you might think is easier. If you went into the witness protection plan, what identity would you like to assume? And for you, this might not be as easy a question as I thought.
Oh, so I've always had this weird obsession with like Uma Thurman, like a la Kill Bill, um motorcycle chick, kind of bad A, I've always had this secret desire to be like this killer, not literally, but like Like I could fight you, you know, kind of personality. Um, Even to the point where this was in, I want to say it was in 2014. My life was in an upheaval in 2014, but I took motorcycle lessons, and the first time I got out on the road and I was actually licensed, totaled the bike, got a rod in my leg.
Oh my God.
Yes, thank God for helmets. That's all I have to say. But
Wow.
I will never get on a bike again. But I, just to prove that I have that in me, that I have a strong desire to be a biker girl. It's just, I can't do it.
Well, maybe you should look at scooters.
I think even, you know, anything motorized, I think I'm just going to have to avoid. Like, I don't even know how I have a driver's license.
Well, I had a scooter for a little bit, and I loved the look of them. And Drew taught me to ride it. He's had a motorcycle for a long time, and I don't really like riding with him because he goes fast, and I mean, it's not that he goes fast, but it scares me, and
Yeah.
you know, because I can't see what's coming, and the motorcycle's loud and everything. But I love the scooter, and he taught me how to ride it. But when I actually took it out on the road by myself, people didn't respect me. They passed me on the right in my own lane.
Ooh.
And that scared me too. And really, I'm just not an outdoorsy girl unless I'm in the pool or by the pool. And so we sold the scooter, but I still have a
Yeah.
fondness for them. But I don't know that it quite meets with your bad girl image of, you know, that you'd be on a twist and go scooter.
Yeah, it's kind of anticlimactic a little bit. But, you know, no, I see people on scooters and I think like maybe, but I think my husband would kill me. And honestly, I know I shouldn't either. So,
Well, and I've got one more little question for you. What fictional character do you wish was real and why?
fictional character. Um, Goodness, any of the Marvel superheroes. Goodness.
No, that goes with your bad girl image,
I
doesn't it?
What is going on today? Yeah. Um, or anything like magical. Like I'm trying to think of like a female, like a sorceress. 'Cause I want to believe in magic so bad. Like I think it does exist in the world, or that we have the ability, we just haven't figured it out. Like we just haven't unlocked that part of our brain yet.
In that vein, Melissa, what genre do you like doing most now, and maybe what one would you like to do more of to put that into the universe?
Yeah. I always love thrillers. I would love to do more of those. Um, and you know, I was encouraged by a casting director. He said to me a a couple of months ago, you know, you should try nonfiction.
Hmm.
And when I think about it, I actually love listening to nonfiction, and I just don't do it a lot. And I think it's just I I never really did that in my career. I don't put it out there that I want to do nonfiction, and there's not a lot on my Audible list. So I don't know. I think like fun nonfiction and anything to do with mindset, of course, but most of those books are narrated by the authors themselves. So um, yeah, I don't know, maybe more nonfiction. That might be interesting.
I think you'd be great at that, of course.
Aw,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we'll have some magic going now.
Woo woo.
Woo-hoo.
Well, we're coming up on the end of our time, so I wonder, Melissa, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience? Anything, last thoughts?
Um, Gosh, that's wide open. I just I just like to remind myself every single day, if I can, if I remember to, that A, everything is made up. If you just woke up every day and thought everything is made up, and by that I mean like the thoughts in our head are all made up. They're not necessarily true, it's all made up. Rules are made up. I don't know. A couple of people got together and said, these are the rules, this is what we do. They're all made up. Um, so I say that to say, um, whatever you want to do and whatever you want to tackle, no one is saying you can't. Like no one. And you don't actually need permission from anyone. You just there are no rules. Everything is made up. Just do what you want and don't feel guilty about it. Don't judge yourself for it, even though we do anyway. Um, Everything is made up. And I guess my other one was just like, yeah, there are no rules. So if you think you can't do something because like A, B, C, eliminate those.
Those are great rules. I would maybe amend the one, or ask if we could amend the one of do what you want, to say as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else. And I think that's what you
Oh
meant.
yeah. Yes, yeah. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt others. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that.
But I love those rules, and I love your view on how it's your thoughts, and how we're letting our thoughts control us and keep us from the good that's coming for us.
Yeah. It's if we didn't have like just think if you had no fear or like no self-judgment or judgment of other people, like what do you think you could accomplish? And like I have to remind myself of that every day because there are still a ton of things that I want to accomplish and I'm like, what are they gonna think? You know? Like we had the conversation earlier of like, well, if she does this coaching, like people are gonna think like I'm no longer a narrator or okay, because I said like, oh, I guess I'm doing photography now, or like, guess what? I'm a life coach, and like, guess what? Here's a painting. Like, if you think people are confused, they're not. They're probably thinking, wow, that's so cool. That's just you saying you're confused.
Well, that's a great point. And any last thoughts or questions for Melissa?
Jennifer has one, and I brought her up to the stage here. Is it another button to press, or do you
Oh,
just?
great.
There you go. Hey,
Yeah, I'm
Jennifer.
here.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hey.
Oh,
Hi.
great.
I just wanted to say hi to Melissa because I don't think we've actually talked before. But really, I know that we're coming to the end of the hour. But Melissa, I wanted to first thank you for the love letters idea, and I wanted to see if you could share a little bit about that, how you came up with that, and if you've ever planned that before or organized it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that, by the way. And I I have a lot to say about that. Um, this all goes into the thought work as well. So Jennifer brought up something called love letters. So I'm part of a women's group, and um, I don't know. I was walking my dog one day, and I thought to myself, you know, it would be so cool to have other people remind you of how beautiful and special and wonderful you are because we often forget that. And like so many times I see on social media, like someone posts a picture of flowers or chocolates or whatever they get in the mail from a colleague or a loved one, and it like made their day, like their week, their month, that someone else set aside the time to think of them and send them something like physical. And so I put together this love letters exchange. So kind of like a Secret Santa, where if you wanted to, you could be matched with a fellow sister. It's a female only thing. And it would be all anonymous. That sister who got you would then research you on social media or whatever they know about you. They would write you a physical, like an actual mail love letter, quote unquote, basically how amazing you are and the light you shine upon the world. And you would get that letter in the mail. So, so I came up with this idea. I said, hey guys, wouldn't it be cool if dot dot dot? Everyone loved it. So I start getting I had everyone send the letters to me because it's all anonymous. They send the letters to me and then I go and I distribute them to the recipients. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but narrators are a little bit like you have to like wrangle cats, like it's herding cats. So I got like so many, and there were like 3 or 4 letters I was missing. God love them. I mean, they have busy lives, stuff happens. I get it, but there were 3 or 4 women who couldn't do it, which kind of like messes up the entire chain because this person writes to this person, then this person, like it's a chain. And so that kind of flipped me out and sent me into a panic. And I'm currently still spinning in this panic because I've now had these love letters in my possession for a long time. And I'm getting ready to send them out this weekend. But because I thought to myself, I have to write these extra letters myself because I couldn't get them from the people, that sent me into a tailspin. And because it didn't work perfectly and the way I wanted it to, and now I'm putting all of this on me, I haven't sent them out yet. So,
Melissa, first of all, I wanted to say thank you again. I mean, that is so much work. And also, please don't feel bad. None of us are like expecting, it to have done perfectly. I think just the thought, it was so beautiful. And I feel that everyone who wrote a letter, it was very therapeutic for us as well to write those letters.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel bad. And I wish you didn't put it upon yourself to write the 3 that didn't come to you. Cause I know there was a bunch of volunteers to do it. I wish you would have received those volunteers.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Right?
And it's just, and then like, again, it's the thoughts like, but then, I'm giving them work and like, I should have had this taken care of.
But you're
like,
already doing so much. I know it's something that we have to practice, but we do need to practice receiving, right? And, but yeah, and if it's not too late, I say, please ask for help because what you're doing is a beautiful thing and we don't want it all on your shoulders and we don't want this to be something stressful for you as well. But I just wanted, from the bottom of my heart, Melissa, I just wanted to say thank you.
That's very lovely. I received that. Thank you so much.
And I'm so glad you brought this up, Jennifer, because I missed out on this completely. This is the first I'm hearing about it. And Melissa, I would love to write one of these letters for you. I would love to be one of the 3 missing people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'll be another one. So you got 2 now.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
this
wonderful.
Is such a wonderful
I appreciate that.
and inspiring and lovely idea. And I'm so glad you brought this up, Jennifer, because like I said, I didn't know anything about it.
No.
So you've got 2 volunteers right here. Do you need more?
I mean, like maybe one more.
Serena Shull just said in the chat, I would write a love letter. So I think you've got 3.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Message me or something, Serena.
Was this something you posted on your account on Facebook?
It was not. I can't, like, I don't want to say where.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah,
well,
no, because it's a private group.
We don't know, what they're going to show us, or there's so much stuff that people say and you never see it because Facebook didn't deem it necessary for you to see. So there's, a lot of things, and all these social media channels are the same way. You don't necessarily see the whole picture from anybody.
Yeah,
but I'm so excited to hear about it now.
Yeah, and I kept it to that group because it was kind of like a beta test of something that could be, something big that I would love to develop further because I think it is kind of a special idea. I don't think it's original. I'm sure someone else has done it, but I just love the idea of women empowering and uplifting other women, and we need those reminders, and having something that you can hold in your hands and just knowing that someone took the time to think of you is is so wonderful. So yeah, maybe it's something to expand on. But I have to get over my crap first.
Well, you might have to wait a little longer than this weekend now for the three of us to
Okay.
get our
Well, and
person
people
and
were
be able to
so
write our
generous
letter.
because I was very upfront about it. I'm like, guys, this is what's happening. I'm so sorry. And people are like, Valentine's Day coming up. I think if you waited until then, that would be the perfect time. And I'm
See,
like,
things happen for a reason.
it's so crazy. So yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think that's very exciting, and it's a wonderful note to end on. If you or Anne have anything else to say, now's your chance. Now's our audience's chance. Oh, Serena has, I'll bring her up. She has raised her hand. So, Serena, you'll have to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, hi. No, I just simply raised my hand because I thought Melissa said something that I missed about being able to write a love letter, or if we're going to do that, how it's going to happen or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't, if there's a way to message me, I can give you more information about that. But I think like in the future that would be an interesting thing to organize on a wider scale.
Okay.
But yeah, but I need to handle this in a smaller group first.
I
And
see.
and just work out all the
Cool.
kinks. But no, I appreciate that question. And yeah, and I encourage you to even take that idea and bring it to your own like church group, women's group, whatever, and use the heck out of it because I think it's something we could all use.
Oh, yeah. Great. No,
Yeah.
thank you. I just have a lot of noise here. Carpet's being put in. So
Oh,
I'm
jeez.
like missing part of it all. Okay.
I hear you.
Thank you. Thank you.
As sirens go by on my end. Sorry.
Well, it seems like we've come to the end of our time, and it's time for everybody to get the show back on the road, as they say. So I'm going to wrap up today's pit stop, but I want you to know the recording will be available on narratorsroadmap.com. And I hope everyone in the audience will take another road trip with us in 2 weeks on February 1st, when we'll be speaking with Sarah Puckett, who's the owner of Pink Flamingo Productions. In the meantime, I hope you all find joy in every journey and are living the life of your dreams. I want to thank again our marvelous guest, Melissa Moran, for this most interesting conversation. To my dear friend Anne Flosnik for your excellent questions and support. And to all of you in the audience for spending time with us today. So thanks so much, and have a great afternoon.